My investment journey got a whole lot better when I started investing in ETFs. In fact, let me say it this way, my life got a whole lot better when I got into ETF investment because it was easier for me to manage. I can automate everything and I don't have to look at the chart, to know if it's going up, if it's going down, all of that. But at least I have an average amount guaranteed each year, despite the amount I'm actually investing in. Unlike before, I used to run around with my friend. We used to look at the next stocks that are going to do well, the blue chip stocks, that will give us 10s, 5s, that's going to get in and get out. Of course, I made money in the process, but I still lost money. My friend actually got me into this. At some point, it was going pretty well. It was going pretty well. Like you sometimes you put in $200, $300, and you end up going out with a bigger amount. It was going pretty well. At some point, everything was going against us. It got to a point where I told him that, hey man, looks like this is not going pretty well the way we actually thought it's going to be. Of course, there's always wins and losses. I said, it's high time I'm going to just end this. I'm not going to do this with you anymore. He said, well, if you back out, it's yours, but I'm still in it for long run. I said, okay. Then I still stayed with him at some point. He's the one doing the whole investigation. He's going to go look out. He said, hey, I found this one. Let's try it. I'll go in with him. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it doesn't. He will be like, okay, he's part of he's part of the journey. I said, of course. But I said, man, like if we keep doing this, it's not going to go pretty well. I said, it's time I just let go and just focus on doing ETF, like all straight up. I told him, man, I'm out. He said, okay, fine. Then I went out and I got into trading 212 here in Europe. It was fine. Then I set up the app. I said, okay, let me start today. Normal one, which is S&P 500. That's the Vanguard 5 S&P 500. I invested in that. Then it got to a point. I said, okay, I don't just want to invest in just one ETF. I want to kind of like have a diversified portfolio, even though they pretty much going to make up ETFs, but at least in different categories, in different sectors. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I started looking into different categories. Well, I'm going to share with you guys the categories I'm actually investing in. For example, bond ETFs, real estate ETFs, growth ETFs, and all of that, and even all the one that compensates all of them. I call it all purpose ETFs. So I'll be sharing with you guys here. I have everything listed here on my phone, so I'll be sharing with you guys on this video. But why did I actually say that ETFs? Actually, my life become easier the moment I got into ETF. For example, ETFs is safe. You are granted an average return every year. Even though depends on the volatility of the market, at least you are guaranteed of 8%. Sometimes if the market does well, 10% each year. I'm not saying it's the best form of investment, but if you're somebody who is looking at the long term, like the long term goal, for example, the projection can be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. In fact, 5 years is a much short period of time because my projection is always 10 years, a decade, 20 years, 30 years more, as long as we are still alive here on this earth. Because, for example, for the way I see it is time in the market is better than time in the market. This is something I actually learned from Nisha because I'm a huge fan of Nisha. Most of my investment journey got into investment. Learning about investment is all from Nisha. Shout out to Nisha. I'm a big fan of hers. So, she always say time in the market is better than time in the market because you can't time the market, but you can actually get in at the right time. When is the right time? For example, for someone who haven't actually started, when is the right time? Now is the right time. There's no right time. You can actually start right. But if you start getting, okay, I want to get in at this position, I want to get out at this position, or maybe this position is better for me. I've done that. I must tell you, it didn't work out well. Especially, I've actually tried timing in the market in cryptocurrencies. You remember I've shared it here on this journey and this channel that I started my investment journey with crypto, especially my first ever crypto was Ethereum. I just bought it out of nowhere. Like I just bought it without even knowing anything about it, about crypto. I just know that, okay, I've bought this. It belongs to me, even though I know that I don't have it physically, but I have it on my wallet. I know it's there. When I actually bought it, I didn't need to know, like I didn't care about the time, if the market was going up or down. Even though when I bought it was at the pandemic during COVID, the market was tanking down. But after COVID 2021, it all tanked up. So now what am I trying to say here? Care less about the time. You can actually start right now, today. So it depends on you. I've said you can start with as minimum as $10, $5, depending on where you are, depending on the country. I don't even need to know where you're coming from, maybe from Asia, from Africa, from Europe or US, America, or from maybe Australia. You can start with any amount you can. You can even actually, for me personally, now the way I do it is try to automate the process. Every month there's a certain amount that goes into my investment account automatically. So I don't have to start looking at the portfolio, checking the app, all of that. Unless maybe after I have some income coming from my side businesses, I want to deposit more. That's when I open the app to actually throw in more money inside. But every month it will just automate by itself. I believe if somebody who's actually serious in this investment journey, you can as well do it this way. ETFs is your best bet, especially if you are starting out. I must tell you, if you're a beginner investor, like you're just starting your investment journey, ETFs is your best bet, especially the Vanguard S&P 500, which kind of like it's more like a basket that holds up to the 500 performing countries in the states. All right. So, for example, inside this 500, if one goes bankrupt, all right, at least you still have 499 there. So your portfolio is not going to tank down. It makes a whole lot difference than you are investing in individual stocks. But hey, mind you, my journey started with in ETLs, but right now I'm actually diversifying into individual stocks. Now, individual stocks now I'm actually investing on a company that have what stood the test of time. For example, I'm talking about Amazon, Tesla, Johnson's, for example, the Plat Technologies, all these companies that have actually stood the test of time, that have actually performed pretty well for themselves. That's what you should actually I'm actually investing in. And I'm also thinking that I'm also telling you, maybe personally, if you want to look into it, I'm not saying it's a financial advice. I'm saying don't focus only on ETFs. I made a video last where I said I'm sorry for those people that actually invest only in ETFs, maybe invest only in S&P 500. What am I trying to say in essence? I'm not saying that you're not going to make money. I'm saying you're actually playing it safe. You're just trying to be, above water, keeping your head above water. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But that doesn't mean it's not a good investment. It is a good investment. But if you want more, you should look at investing in individual stocks and also Bitcoin as well. I'm not saying it's a financial advice. It's more like what I do think. All right. For example, individual stocks. For example, like I was having a conversation with somebody. He's more of somebody who is investing greatly in individual stocks that have to do with technology and AI. I told him, hey, bro, that's not the way to go. Your individual stocks should be diversified as well. The way I try to diversify your portfolio, your individual stocks needs to be diversified as well. For example, consumer goods. For example, consumer goods stocks can be good. Amazon, healthcare, Johnson's, and all of that can be good. So then look at AI and technology, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, and all of that. Don't just focus on AI. How about let's assume that the era of AI ends. Of course, all these stocks they will tank down, they will tank down. So you have to also focus on something that doesn't solely depends on technology. That's kind of like it's another industry on its own. For example, industries like motor engines, like common engines, like consumers, like consumables. All these things is something that you should look into, trying to diversify your portfolio. These are personally what I'm doing. So I think that you are somebody who is looking into investment as well should also look into it. But if you're a beginner investor, I would say start with ETFs. All right. Now, which ETF am I actually investing on? I have it here all listed out on my phone. Let me open my phone and say it out. Now, this list of ETFs I have. I have the growth ETF, for example, the Vanguard 500, which is VUG. All right. If you're in the States, of course, you have it. Now, I have iShares Russell 1000 growth, which is IWF ETF. Then I have the Invesco GG Trust, which is QQQ, that is triple Q. This ETF perform really well. They have their growth ETF, so your portfolio definitely is going to grow. You see the increase in numbers if you buy these ETFs. Now they have the Schwab US dividend, which is XCHD. Then Vanguard divided appreciation, which is VIG. Then the Vanguard high dividend yield, which is VYM. Then for bonds, if you're someone who's looking at investing in bonds ETFs, That's iShared Core US Aggregate with AGG, Vanguard Total Bond Market, which is BND, then Vanguard Total International, BNDX. Now, if you're looking at rate, for example, if you can't invest in, let's say, physical real estate, there is online as well in ETFs. There's called real estate, called rate. Then we'll have Vanguard Real Estate, which is VNG. Then the Schwab US rate SC double H. Then iShares Core US X USRT as well. Now, in all of them, there's all purpose ETFs here. We have Vanguard Total Stock, which is VT. Then Vanguard Total Stock Market, which is VTI, which is good. Then the S&P 500, which is VOO. All right, so VTI, VOO, they are pretty good, and VT as well. Now, in all these things I just mentioned, which one is my favorite, which I'm actually what investing in greatly is, for example, the invest code NASDAQ 100, which is QQQM, that's QQM. Then the Schwab US Dividend XCHD. The ETF perform really well. If you can check them on Google, you see their performance. Then Vanguard, S&P 500. So these are pretty much what I'm actually investing in. Like I said, ETF has made my life easier. I don't have to start looking at charts, opening up to know if it's going up and down. Even though I used to run around with my friend before looking at the next source to buy, get in, get out, and all of that. But I said that, man, it's time for a change. And everything has been working pretty well for me. And I believe something that as well can do well for you as well, right? So I don't know where you are in your investment journey, but if you are somebody who is starting now, maybe who's building something for themselves, comment below. I did like to know from you, hear from you as well. So all my videos are basically how I'm doing it, how my journey is there. I have my 9 to 5 job. So for me, basically, every month I automate my investment and I'll share this how I'm doing it here. But if you're on the journey, like I keep saying, comment below. All right. So meanwhile, there's a community. We are trying to build community of like-minded people who are trying to build more for themselves, who wants a life by design, not the one that the society is trying to give them, but the one that they want to give to themselves. Comment below. You'll be invited to the community. You share, talk to like-minded people. We share opportunities on how to increase our income, invest better, and help each other grow as well, right? So my name is Somasi, guys. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please, I say, give it a thumbs up as well. Subscribe to the channel, support the movement, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Adios. Hasta la vista.